You want me to put that on my Tudor?
Cushions and carpets. Madam knew best. Earlier today, I have talked about the exploitation of children by Harry's wife following the visit to New York in September 2021, and how, driven by her narcissism, it had led her to seek to assert control over those that were involved in the incident, where she read to the children to the extent that staff and volunteers were gagged, that sort of set dressing was involved in, and that children were being used ultimately for promotional purposes, despite it being stipulated that that could not take place. It demonstrates the complete absence of boundary recognition, the absence of emotional empathy, behaving with a sense of entitlement, and of course demonstrating no accountability. It was all part of manipulation to enable the drawing of fuel and the management of a facade, and to create footage for monetary gain in relation to the Shitflix series. Of course, one consideration might have been, well, wasn't this all handled by Archwell and its PR, and therefore how could the blame be necessarily laid at the door of Harry's wife? Well, we know that Harry's wife is the expert on everything. We can see that with regard to many instances where she has got things so hopelessly wrong, it's evident that the experts have not been listened to. Some narcissists harness expert information because their narcissism recognizes the value in doing so. But many narcissists, usually lesser and mid-range, believe they are the experts and that they know best, and therefore they'll listen and then say, we're going to do it my way. This is because their narcissism interprets the helpfulness of the experts as a threat to control, and therefore they're not to be listened to. They are actually there to be yes men and yes women to the narcissist, to endorse what the narcissist wants, and they're expected to act as good little minions supporting it and suggesting, that idea is brilliant, let's execute it. Those that seek to speak out and offer an alternative to what is suggested by the narcissist invariably find themselves criticised, shouted down, and indeed, often their services being dispensed with. You commonly see this with narcissists who hire lawyers. If the lawyer provides advice that the narcissist does not like, the narcissist will simply fire that lawyer and go and get a different one. Beware of an individual that you are involved in litigation with who has been represented by different firms of lawyers. You're probably dealing with a narcissist. The narcissist does this in order to find somebody that gives them what they want, that does what they say. So the tail wags the dog. That person's expertise is cast to one side. The lawyer becomes a hired gun. But it doesn't just apply to lawyers. It's evident with regard to the cushions and carpet incident that Harry's wife's diktats are replicable. Why? 1, because it's a fuck-up, and she has the Sadim touch. 2, that's linked to her narcissism. She always knows better than everybody else. But thirdly, it's as a consequence of the input I have received from my PR expert. She explains that it's difficult to pinpoint who actually ended up leaking the emails, but the common denominator appears to be the PR for the NYC schools, and that she may well be the individual that has provided this information. But notwithstanding that, or the fact that it came pursuant to Freedom of Information requests, the PR expert explains that naturally a leak is every PR person's nightmare. PR people are meant to be the grey cardinals, there to ensure that it all happens for the clients without actually drawing attention to themselves in the process. A legion of unseen facilitators whose role is to make it happen, to cause fetch to occur without actually being seen as instrumental in the process. It's sometimes the case with big scandals where the PR experts advising a particular political entity, person or company involved in said crisis are revealed in the press, and then it's not the case of feeling schadenfreude towards PR competitors, only genuine compassion and commiseration at being caught up in the shitstorm. It tends to be damaging for the profession as a whole. This PR individual feels rather emphatically that what Harry's wife has done is shit all over her beloved craft, public relations, as a collateral consequence of Harry's wife's behaviour. There would have been no need for the Daily Mail article ridiculing the various PR people that got pulled into this debacle had it not been for Harry's wife's narcissism. The mere idea of organising this promotional event PR stunt in New York City she sees as nauseating, and no semi-decent PR person would ever recommend this cringe fest of a project to a client. Thus, the experts wouldn't put it forward. The experts wouldn't have suggested that this was something that should be done. Instead, it's quite clear that Harry's wife rolled over PR advisors with her narcissism tank and demanded, insisted, laid down the law for this shit to take place. It stinks of her micromanaging the whole thing, from the pillow's aesthetic to the list of banned UK media. The PR expert has had experience with clients discouraging certain media from entering the event, but it is never, ever, not ever, done in such a blatant way as to specifically address a full list of recipients in an email chain, thus leaving a documented trace of essentially disregarding the freedom of press, also known as the First Amendment in the USA. It has Harry's wife written all over it with regard to her need to assert control and the ham-fisted way by which she goes about things. The PR expert has never seen anything like that in her almost 3 decades-long career in media and public relations. By way of an example, she was undertaking PR for the opening of a Burberry flagship store in a particular capital city. The expert was emailed the standard information, including instructions for maximising press turnover at the event. It was only when the Burberry team arrived at this particular capital that their PR representative called the expert to one side during a business lunch and asked for no press photographers from local media to be allowed inside. Burberry had brought their own camera guy who'd later distribute the pictures. Accordingly, there was no written document created of Burberry demands that the local PR keeps media away. The expert was able to handle the matter gracefully by her letting the already invited photographers know they are to photograph the red carpet, white carpet in Burberry's case, arrivals, and are later warmly invited to join the party as guests. That's how it's done. With regard to the less promotion-y press release, the PR expert explains that she'd die of embarrassment typing such nonsense. But the fact is that she sees how this is not so much about what the PR people were doing, but the way that Harry's wife told them this is the way it must be, which naturally is commensurate with the way that she asserts control over people and then creates the collateral consequence of making them all look entirely stupid. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.